Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Let's go, a summer safari into India's tiger territory, presented by NatHab's Guide Development Director and Expedition Leader, Annie Van Zenther, and two of our amazing India guides, Payal and Harsha. Thank you both so much for being here today. Annie, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Kendall. We really appreciate all your effort and hard work to make this happen. Thank you to all of you who signed on. We are so excited to share this incredible journey with you, and especially Payal and Harsha. I have had so much fun preparing this with you, and I can't wait to learn even more as we move forward. I'm coming to you today from Homer, Alaska, and these guys are all the way around another part of the world. So how about you guys introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you for signing in. My name is Payal, and I have been guiding with NatHab since 2014.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Harsha, and I've been guiding from 2013. Yeah, we are from all the way from India. Yeah.
Yes, so we are many hours apart, but we are going to learn about this phenomenal journey. And so we will not hesitate anymore, because obviously the point of this is these incredible tigers. So tell us more.
Absolutely, Annie. This trip that today we are hoping to take you and everyone else here on a virtual journey, right? That's what Let's Go webinars are about. And this particular itinerary, this trip that we are talking to you about was designed to maximize your chances of seeing a tiger, and in general, a very, very photogenic trip. Lots of great photo opportunities. So let's get going. So this trip, Annie, it's the most compact trip of this region of the Indian subcontinent. It's only 7 or 11 days long, and only 6 guests strong. Really tight. Yeah. And you may wonder that why have I written 7 or 11 right over here, Annie? That's because there are different kinds of trips that we are running to these same destinations. So one is the India Tiger Quest trip, which is 7 days long. This is something that we've run for a long time, very successfully, and it's hugely popular. We have a new trip for next year, which is the only women-only departure, which I'm so excited for. And we have a new one, a forthcoming new trip, which hasn't even been announced on the website yet, but we are giving it out today. We are having a Photo Pro expedition to these destinations also, and that's going to be a slightly longer trip, but essentially the same places. So, Annie, we are going to start this trip in Delhi. Delhi is where we start the trip. Delhi is the capital of India. Delhi is not just the capital of India today. It has been, in the past, India was occupied by many different foreigners who came in and ruled India. And many of those kingdoms also chose Delhi as their capital. So Delhi is this place which has so much of history recorded in it. Annie, at the bottom of this map, can you see the 3 logos? In this short trip, Annie, we are going to experience different modes of transport. We are going to have an internal flight, a van, and a train in this little journey.
Yeah, so it's not just these 3. We have the 4th one, very interesting one. That will be the cycle rickshaw. So when you arrive in Delhi, you rest that day, and next morning you meet your expedition leader and the guide in the morning, and we go out for sightseeing. And we go to the Old Delhi, and in Old Delhi we go in this cycle rickshaws because they are the best way to explore the small by lanes of Old Delhi, where there are plenty of shops which sell spices, jewelries, food, and it's a cultural hub. So that's the best way to travel. Yes,
I
Annie.
have a question. Can people bring spices home with them?
Yes, there are some spices are allowed to bring back, especially which are made into powder, not anything which has seeds in them.
Okay.
So those kind of things are, people can take it back, and a lot of guests have taken it back successfully. Yes,
I bet that would be high on my list. That's for sure.
yes, yes,
So much
yeah,
more to Delhi
and
as well.
yes, and also we quickly try to visit one or two important places because, like Payal said, it has been capital for many different dynasties. So we have a couple of World Heritage sites. So we visit these and return back to our hotel to rest for the day in Delhi. Yeah, and next day morning.
After getting this amazing slice, like a quick peek into India through its capital city, Annie, we take a flight early the next morning to go to a place called Jaipur. Now, before I take you further on this itinerary, we would like to stop here. And as you see in this photo, Annie, this is a picture taken from a hazy flight window, aeroplane window, where you're looking down on your way from Delhi to Jaipur. And what you see down are these little spines, right, running parallel to each other. These, Annie, are the Aravalli mountain ranges. It is one of the world's oldest mountain ranges.
Yeah, so just to give an idea before we get into the Aravallis, if you look here, uh, you can see the Africa to the left, and in the middle is of course, the Middle East and the Arabia and India. And this red arrow from left to right goes through the desert from Sahara and the Middle East and uh, India. So you can see how far the desert enters to India on the eastern part, and this whole thing is the same chain of same ecosystem of the desert ecosystem. But here in this map of India, if you look carefully, you can see the same color above India also. So that's the China, and also Mongolia and the Gobi Desert on the top, and the Himalayas block them to coming further into India. And if you look in India, more of the western side where the desert stops, that's the chain of mountains, which is not prominent in this map right now, which actually stopped the desert to continue further. Because, yes, more towards east. Because of these two mountains, uh, India changed. Otherwise, it would have become like one of the Arabian countries with full of desert. And if you look below to the left bottom, you can see the Arabian Sea. From that region, from that direction, every year for more than 3 months, we get the monsoon rains, the monsoon winds, which brings the rains, and it gets blocked by the Himalayas, and all the downpour happens for more than 3 months. That's why India is so lush green and predictable weather, which raised to a lot of rivers, a lot of forest, good habitat for the tigers. And this is one of the reasons why the tiger probably didn't go further west to the desert. And also it became the melting pot of different cultures and civilization because it was so fertile.
Wow. And so what you're saying is that essentially all of that desert that is in the Middle East, in Africa, it would have just continued on if the
Very
mountain
likely.
structures were not as they are. Now, I have one other question because that's fascinating to me, that this would be a whole different place if it wasn't for this structure. What is this green patch that seems to interrupt the desert so beautifully? So you almost end up with like a pocket of desert. What is that?
Exactly, Annie. To answer the question, we can zoom in a little bit into this region. Uh, that sliver of green is formed because of one huge perennial river that is glacier fed. It comes from the Himalayas. So the desert doesn't affect it. And that its riverbed and the area around it is the only fertile green area in this large desert. You know, like how the Nile is in Africa. Similarly, over here, this river flows through Pakistan, which is the neighboring country to India. And like Harsha was saying, you can see that the desert beyond it abruptly stops, right? And that is because of this Aravalli Mountains that you were able to see from the airplane that we showed you the picture of. These Aravalli mountain ranges, like we were saying, are really, really old, some of the oldest. Now, for most tectonic activities, geologists have been able to give a particular date, right? So say the Himalayas were formed 50 million years ago, or the Rockies, the same, for example, very similar age. But here, the Aravallis took almost 2 billion years to form. So the oldest rocks in the Aravallis were formed 3 billion years ago, and the newest rocks in the Aravallis are 1 billion years ago. You know, Annie, geologists say that in its peak, the Aravallis were taller than the Himalayas are today.
Whoa.
Exactly. It's just that they're so old that they've been over time eroded and, you know, whatever the earth went through, and they are now reduced to a broken chain of hills.
Wow. I mean, really, you're talking about 2 billion years of erosion and other activity. Now, it's kind of easy for us to talk about 3 billion, 2 billion, like put these numbers out. But really, if you haven't spent much time understanding the geological scale, those numbers are almost inconceivable for us to really think about that timeline. Is there some way that we can sort of picture what it must have been like?
Absolutely, Annie. You're so right, because this is something even we struggled with all, you know, through our student life as well, you know, while studying these subjects. So let me just, so this 3 billion to 1 billion years ago time period is when all the life on Earth was microscopic. And it was the time in the life of Earth, in the 4.5 billion years of the Earth's life, when the landmass was arranged very, very differently. The world it's even before Pangea.
Okay.
So when so much land was not even visible, it was more water. Like today we have 70% water. That time it was maybe 80% or more percent of water. Yeah, it was very, very different looking world. And that's when the Aravallis were formed.
I think about this time period as like the petri dish time period for life on Earth. It was the beginning bubbling parts of what was to come. So this is what this area looks like. Tell us more of this.
It's a very, very beautiful area with really, really special wildlife. Not just animals, but even flora. There are trees here that are found nowhere else in the world, for example. And, you know, it's just fantastic habitat for creatures which are shy, you know, like wolves or hyenas. All of this lives here. But today, this oldest mountain range of one of the oldest mountain ranges of the world, Annie, are under threat. Mining being one of them. And as you know, mining it's irreversible damage, right? Like if the air gets polluted, at least if you stop using vehicles, you know, Corona pandemic proved it to us that it cleans up the air, for example. But mining is irreversible. Anyway, even the marble, the Makrana marble of which built the Taj Mahal, that was also sourced from the Aravallis. It is a great, great resource of gemstones and special stones.
Wow, phenomenal. So this is a huge part of why the area that we're going to travel to is so special. Tell us about Jaipur. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the Aravallis actually starts or ends just outside Delhi and goes all the way here, and we'll be traveling in and around it. And Jaipur is the where we land from once we take off from Delhi. And once we land, we head to Ranthambore, or uh, this is or if you're staying overnight for the new Photo Pro trip, you explore the city, and it's called Pink City, and it's one of the most beautiful cities in India with a lot of different culture, uh, and they have this magnificent fort. And here we'll also visit a new, very newly formed reserve, which is great for leopard. And here we put urban leopard because the leopards here, they're so close to human habitat. It's amazing how they survive at this close proximity. So we do a
So
quick visit here.
it is really interesting to see this, what we think of as the symbol of a wild animal, right? This leopard, and a very large city right next to each other. I remember a photo that you guys showed me several years ago when you came to visit Colorado for a guide training. That was a leopard, a real leopard, not a stuffed animal, in a toy store up on a shelf. I will never forget that photo. Does that happen in this area or similar things to that photo?
Yes, you're absolutely right. They come into the cities, especially at nights, because we have created space and also food for them, the stray dogs or the rodents. So, and monkeys are also fed by people. So they come in to catch all this. So sometimes we see them in the news that with the tiger, sorry, the leopard in our apartment complex or something photographed, or night CCTV camera walking between the cars and the vehicles parked in the night. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It's an
Okay.
amazingly adaptable cat.
Yeah. And
Phenomenal.
just
So they're not the only wildlife that you're seeing mixed in with urban places. This picture reminds me so much, oddly, of like when we have moose just walking down the street here in Alaska. But I think I learned from you this is not a wild camel, correct?
Exactly right, Annie. Annie, this photograph has been taken when you finish your time in Jaipur and then you drive towards Ranthambore the next day. And this drive is no unusual drive, Annie, because of, as you mentioned, roads in India are for everyone, not just for vehicles. There are people, there are cows, there can be camels in this region because it's the desert hot region. This camel, Annie, like you rightly said, is not a wild camel. It belongs to someone, but it's just walking around. And that's what it is, along with cows and other things. There's a dog in there too. So yeah, and we drive on these roads. It's hard to fall asleep on these drives. It's extremely interesting, and it's a great peek into just everyday life of India. You know, when you just take these short drives and look at what's happening around you. So with this short drive, Annie, a short but very interesting drive, we reach Ranthambore National Park. Um, Ranthambore National Park is about a 3-hour drive from Jaipur, and this whole region, Annie, where our trip is happening, is very famous for its warrior uh, class. You know, the warrior community. This place was famous for its princely states, and with that, this area is rich with palaces and forts. And one of the biggest forts of this region is the Ranthambore Fort, which gives this national park its name. So, inside the limits of the national park is the Ranthambore Fort, which was once upon a time occupied by a princely kingdom. It was a live fort, and it has temples inside, and it has rooms and courtrooms and whatnot. And it's huge. And even today, the temple inside is visited by local people. It holds a lot of importance.
I
Annie, I
love this
remember.
photo. This photo just makes me smile. I probably because there's so many beautiful smiles in it, but I think it's just absolutely incredible photo. So this is actually inside the national park.
Yeah, yeah, and so we have a road which go to the forest, to this fort inside the national park, and this is access to the public because of the temple inside. It's kind of a pilgrim place for them. So, like Payal said, locals and also people from many parts of the state walk to this fort regularly, and some auspicious day you'll see plenty and colorfully dressed local people. That itself is a sighting, and we get so much opportunities to see the different culture and to get photographed after asking them. It's fantastic.
Wow, that's incredible. The temple, the people, all amazing. And of course, look at this photo, this baby kitten tiger. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So tell me about this part.
So exactly, Annie. So Ranthambore National Park, in spite of it has all these amazing features, right? The fort inside it, and these people coming to visit the temple, but it makes this place an amazing place to see tigers. In fact, the ruins, the rocks, and the hills we spoke about, all of that together just makes an excellent setting.
Yeah. So, like Annie, like Payal said, and you saw some of the pictures of the fort and people coming. It was an existing kingdom till couple of decades back. You know, there used to be Maharajas and there were a lot of people. So, but it's all gone. It's the ruins, and we have this dramatic big fig trees and the aerial routes coming over the ruins, and we see wildlife in them. So it's like a setting of a jungle book.
That's
You
what it
know,
looks like is, Indiana Jones or the Jungle Book, some kind of Hollywood setting, but of course it must be so much deeper of an experience because it's not a movie. You're actually in it. I mean, I think you said when we were preparing that you actually drive through this archway. It's phenomenal.
And Annie, it's possible to see different kind of wildlife there.
yeah, and of course you see them in other away when you move away from the fort area in the open area in so-called natural setting, but this is their natural setting too, the ruins. So you'll see these monkey, the bandarlog in the Jungle Book, and the peacock display in the ruins, and of course you also see the tigers in these ruins also. That makes one of the best sightings, we would say.
Yeah, it makes this park so special that they are walking through these, living in these historic, uh, structures and using them actually. And also, you see them on the rocks, like we said, sometimes far away like this. Look at this beautiful tigress just lying. You can only see her back, and you can see the rocks that made these old mountains. So sometimes you see tigers in the ruins, sometimes on the rocks, like Harsha was saying, and sometimes, close up
In the forest,
in
yeah.
the wooded area.
Okay, you have to tell me about this behavior because having spent so much time with polar bears, I immediately think about polar bears sparring, which is pretty normal behavior to see when you do our polar bear trip. Not every trip will necessarily see it, but it doesn't surprise me when we see it. It's super cool, but I'm not like thinking, wow, this is a rare behavior. What about for tigers? Is this a normal way for them to interact?
No, not at all. So they're solitary animals and they avoid conflicts. Only time you see them together when they're mating or when mother with growing up cubs together, and sometimes when they fight, which all happens not common. Means they all happens rarely. So here, interestingly, look at the muscles. Look how strong they look. Very powerful. In fact, they're not even complete adults. these are two sisters. This is actually sibling rivalry happening.
So these are
So there are
teenagers.
two, yeah, teenagers. Yeah. So the two sister and a brother in that litter, and they are probably 18 months to 2 years old. Just by then they get independent. That's when they may not like each other so much, and they don't spend time together. But interestingly, these two sisters didn't like each other, and something happened, and they happened to come close to each other, and it was a just fraction of few seconds. They got up, snarled, and almost punched each other. It was so quick and intense, you can say. And of course, they won't conflict. I mean, they won't hit each other. That would cause some injuries, so they avoid the size themselves. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about the size of their paw print. I mean, the tiger that we are not looking at its face, you can really see how huge that is. We use, for a polar bear, we would say the size of a dinner plate. What would we say to understand this size?
Yeah, it's smaller than the polar bear.
Like a quarter plate.
Side plate or something.
Okay,
But
okay.
actually, a big male will fit in your hand, easily.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So when we go to see these animals, I've seen pictures of it. Tell us what it's like actually watching them.
So Annie, remember at the beginning of this presentation, we mentioned that this is a small group trip. And when NatHab tells us that they want to run a small group trip, we take it very, very seriously. So in this trip, we have 3 vehicles. So per Jeep, we have just 2 guests.
Wow.
It's very private. It's very wonderful. It's great for people. It just gives so much room. This is the kind of vehicle exactly how you see it in the photograph here, Annie. Besides the 2 guests, we have 2 more very important people in the vehicle. One is the local driver, and the other will be the local guide. Annie, us ELs, us expedition leaders, we take turns going in these vehicles one by one safari after the other, so that we can spend time with all of our guests as equally as possible. But at all times, there is a local guide, a park guide, we call them, and a driver with them.
Wow.
It's very, very important, Annie, because these are the folks who make so much difference to our experience. They are the ones who know the everyday movement of these animals. They go to the park every day. They are the ones who help us look for tigers. They are very, very well hidden. Or they also are able to track tigers who are out there, bold, and happy to walk right in the middle of the road, irrespective of what's around them. So yeah, that's what makes these so special.
So this
Annie,
is
like
a
you,
common sighting.
sorry, Annie.
This is a common sighting.
You can say that not always happens, but some of the individuals are very bold, and they really don't care when they want to walk on the road. And if you keep distance from the tiger and give space, it just walks on the road to certain. It has the fixed path which they prefer to take. Need not be always, but most of the time they try to use the same stretch of the road or same trail, animal trail. So they walk for long distance, and you keep your vehicles away from the animal and allow it to walk, and they don't really care. That's what it appears for us. Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I love this image.
So Annie, you can see it's in the water drinking, and this is the time of the year we have very high chances of seeing the tiger in the water. It's getting hotter day by day, and as tiger is a big cat, It, of course, it has to come to water to drink. Apart from that, it needs to cool itself in the water. So many times in the peak summer, when we run our trips, they come and sleep in the water, and means they're not just rest, they doze off. You can see in this picture, its eyes closed, it's going to sleep and not bothered by us. And sometimes it's so funny. I wish I had a video of this. The nostril went into the water and it got up with the shock because it couldn't breathe, and you could see the bubbles for a second.
Oh my goodness. They are incredible. Okay, tell us about that.
So Annie, when we say hot, when Harsha just mentioned it's hot, it's really, really hot. We are speaking a temperature range from about 85 Fahrenheit to 110 at the hottest time of the day sometimes. But we, on this trip, with NatHab, as you know, we learn how to live in these temperatures because you deal with it during these trips, right? And the best way to deal with the temperature here is to do it like a tiger. We have a cool drink, stay indoors at the hottest time of the day, and hydrate. So these are like the mantra for this trip. And as you see in this photograph, Annie, I mean, I know you recognize the water bottle cap and the buff, but there's a special, very plain looking, but very special item in there. This ribbon-like beige colored collar. That little simple looking piece of cloth has some silica gel in it. So what we do, we take these collars and we put it in an ice box. And just before the second safari, so every day you have 2 safaris. The morning safari, in the hottest time of the day, you come back home, as into the hotel, and you go back in the afternoon. And in the afternoon, when you're going out, it's going to be hot. So you start your safari with these cool collars around your neck, which are such a treat. And with that, you have insulated flask, which holds your cool drink, cool water, or, we usually prefer lemonade or plain water just to maintain your electrolytes and, just fluids. So yeah, with that, we deal with the heat. And I can't stress enough, Annie, in, a place like India in its peak summer and so close to the desert, you have to hydrate, hydrate, and hydrate.
So I guess that's one of my questions is, if you came to visit me in Alaska and I was trying to teach you about how to be in super cold temperatures, like the Northern Lights trip that we have in Canada is the same. Like we don't go in February because we want to hang out in -40 temperatures, but it's the best time to see the lights. So what is the #1 mistake that you see people make as they're learning how to be in these cold temperatures? I mean, these warm, hot temperatures. I'm so used to cold.
Yeah. So it's here the leopard says it all. Water, not the Coke. It's good to have a Coke, but we have seen many of our travelers who come just to quench their thirst. They want chilled, aerated drinks. We request them to have water or fresh juice or even electrolyte added in the water. That becomes a challenge, and we becomes like school teacher or the mother, always telling hydrate, hydrate, not soft drinks, not soft drinks. That's very important, and nothing else. It's just that lack of hydration leads to many things in the trip, which can go wrong for them. Nothing else. Lack of hydration.
Okay, so this is my big goal when I do finally get to come visit India in person. I'm going to be drinking and using those electrolytes and staying healthy. So I see other wildlife here.
Yes. So you saw the leopard drinking water. We have leopard in Ranthambore, and like you were talking about, people come in -40 degree to see the northern lights. It's not just the heat which drives the animals, like the tiger sitting in the water, but also to the other picture you can see it's very dry. So this time of the year, it's so dry that you can see through the forest. And you can see here there's a black blob. And if you look at the next slide, you realize that black blob was nothing but the sloth bear.
Wow.
So if it was a very green time of the year, that is after the monsoon, and it will turn completely green, which you'll see it in the next slide. And in that green time of the year, it's very difficult to spot these elusive animals like the sloth bear, or even the bold tiger can disappear. So that's why we choose to visit Ranthambore at this time of the year.
That makes so much sense. So what other wildlife will we be hoping to see on this journey?
There is so much, Annie, the park has to offer. Like most of our trips, right? We go to a park with a particular focus, but we come away with a lot more. Similarly, over here, you have small and big animals. Like what you see on the screen just now is a ruddy mongoose. Yeah, look at that curved tail with the black tip. That's the best way to identify it, even if you see it scurrying across. So other than that, you have large animals like antelope. You know, what you see here is called a blue bull. It has a lovely bluish gray coat, which is hard to see here. But what you're seeing here are males. And look at their feet, Annie. It has this, like they have some fancy black and white shoes up there, you know, there's just beautiful looking animals. And besides this, you have wonderful bird life. And this holds true even for photography, Annie, as I speak of all these things, you know, I mean, it's not just the tigers, but you have chance to photograph birds like the peacock. You have birds like raptors, you know, eagles, like the serpent eagle here in this photograph. The other bird here is the red wattled lapwing with beautiful yellow long legs, and here you have the beautiful plum-headed parakeets. And these are just a few examples of the various things you can see in the park. And of course, there is the tiger again, because Annie would love to see one, I know. So
Yeah, and
I can't see too many pictures of tigers, that is for sure. So while we're on this adventure and seeing these incredible animals, tell us about where we're going to be staying.
So here we are staying in one of the beautiful lodges called Oberoi Villas. They have beautiful, this luxury tented accommodation, and which is right next to the national park. In India, all the accommodations are outside the park or very edge of the park. There's nothing inside the park. So this is right at the edge of the park, and you can hear wildlife from here, and you can see these tents in the front, the beautiful luxury tent, and right behind is the national park. And it's a great experience itself staying here, because you get to spend a lot of time here during the very hot time of the day. You know, even the animals are not active. That time we are back, and everything, the service and everything, the location, the facility they offer, it's really, really beautiful.
Wow.
And yeah.
Okay, so culturally, I can see that there's a lot that people will be experiencing, everything from the transportation to this elegant property, the wildlife. Tell us a little bit about the food, because I imagine that is quite an experience for our guests.
it is, Annie. I mean, we love to, how do I say, we show our love through food, right? We all do. And we are so excited when our guests come to our country and enjoy all the different food that there is. And India has so much to offer. Today, however, Annie, we've decided not to speak much about it, but to share with you one of the recipes that's not only Harsha and my favorite, but we've seen that most of our guests love it too. So here you have something that we call dal tadka, or the dal fry. Dal means lentil. I'm sure you or some of the others who are listening to us here and have visited Indian restaurants are familiar with dals, right? You have it with rice, you have it with your different rotis and naans. And here is one such recipe. I would invite our guests to maybe take pictures, or I think it may be available. We can make it available for them later.
Yes.
And it has these amazing ingredients. You should be able to find them in your local Indian grocery store. But remember, if you don't have one or two, it doesn't matter. You can still make an excellent dal nonetheless. Just follow the steps and you should be able to treat yourself to one.
That is fantastic. And yes, we will have a copy of it available as an attachment here. So people can actually get a copy of that recipe. And then if we need to talk about it at the end, if people have questions, we will. So I'm going to try to make it. I will tell you that much. So I'll be reporting back to you some other time when we do a webinar, and I'll let you know how it goes.
I look forward to that, Annie.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us now, we're going to take a train to Delhi. I do have some ideas about what a train ride might be like in India. Am I correct about those ideas? Is this an accurate representation of what a train ride might be like in India?
Yeah, you can see Payal and some guests hanging there.
Okay, so all jokes aside, this isn't exactly what the experience will be like, correct?
That's exactly right. While the previous picture is not a false one, that is how thousands and hundreds of thousands of people in India travel sometimes. But our guests are going to go in a luxurious, air-conditioned, lovely chair car train from Ranthambore to take them back to Delhi. And it's again a lovely ride. You see another part of India, as you saw it from the air, you saw it from the van, and now you'll see some from the train. In this trip, Annie, in the shorter trip, we have an extension to Agra, where guests who want to see the Taj Mahal get off at a different station where a local guide would meet them, and they get to go see the Taj Mahal. Or like in the photo pro trip, they just continue the trip into, going to the Taj Mahal. And with
Wow,
that,
sounds fantastic. And we should say the Photo Pro program is this really exciting new program we have where, you're doing in many cases the same itinerary. There might be a slight change here to a night or something like that, but you're really going to be spending the time at the location, maybe waiting longer than people who aren't on that Photo Pro destination, right? That they will wait a long time for wildlife, or they'll wake up really, really early, or they'll really put the time in, as photography being the central aim and goal of that time. So it's going to be really exciting to see those develop and have people experience that. Now, I have to say there's one more thing I have to see before we open up to questions, and it's one more tiger, because that really is the most important part of this. But I love that it's not the only part, right? There's so many different experiences our guests will have when it comes to traveling, when it comes to culture, other wildlife. It seems like this is just a world-class safari, and I cannot wait to go on it myself. It's going to be incredible. So
we can't wait to have you, Annie.
Oh, it'll be so great. I just think we need to do this exchange. You come here, I'll show you Alaska, and I'll go there and learn about India. It would be fantastic.
Yeah,
So
we
I
are
think
ready.
at this point, we're ready for questions, right? Okay, Kendall, do we have any questions today?
We sure do. And before we get started, I just want to remind everyone who's watching, if you have questions today, you can submit that in your control panel under the questions field. And also in your control panel, you can find that dal recipe that they were talking about earlier. Just check the handout section of the control panel. All right. If you could talk a little bit more about what the weather is like in terms of heat and humidity, and how much walking would be required.
One thing I have to say before you guys answer, It's a lot like what the lower 48 has been like recently. We've had this heat wave, and I think it's a match for that. So everything they've told me is if you just kind of pay attention to what's been going on in the States, it'll be similar. I'll let you guys answer now.
So it will be really warm. So Delhi, it will be getting hot day by day. We walk very little. Even in Delhi sightseeing, we'll be in the cycle rickshaw or the air-conditioned coach, the bus to get the destination. Maybe we'll walk very, very little, probably few hundred yards, maybe inside a monument. It's an optional. And when we go to Ranthambore National Park, we are not doing any walks. We'll be always in the vehicle. There are very few places we can get off the vehicle. Otherwise, we'll be sitting in the vehicle. And it's not humid. This is a dry heat. So that's why we insist on having a lot of water, and it just evaporates. So it's a dry heat. We have occasional rain with a summer rains, very short. That time it can get humid for a short time, for a day maybe. Otherwise, it's very dry heat. And Ranthambore, most of your walks will be from the parking to your room and the back. It's so hot. That's why we go to the park early morning, come back early, and go late afternoon, come just at the sunset.
So there's built-in nap time for the trip, you're saying, for people who want it.
And we insist to have nap and take rest, because most of who are watching here might have experienced, and Annie, you also, that the dry heat, you don't have to work. You have to just sit outside for a few minutes trying to watch some birds or animals. That dry heat will drain you. It feels like you're worked out, so you rest in the very hot time of the day.
And the animals aren't active then either, right? So it's not like you're missing wildlife. They're going to be sleeping during that time as well.
Yes, they rest in the shade. Tigers sometimes rest in the water, but almost all activity we see them moving early morning or late in the evenings.
Perfectly planned.
Okay, next question. How long are the morning and afternoon safaris? How long are you actually in the vehicle in the parks?
So average 3 hours to 3.5 hours in the vehicle. And the afternoon drives, sometimes it will be 2.5 hours to 3 hours. The timings changes depending on the sunset. So yeah, average you can say 3 hours.
So just Annie, to add to this, our parks are public parks, right? They are governed by our government, and they decide the rules. So there is a fixed entry time and a fixed exit time. So we enter, the gates open, we enter the park, we go to the zones that we are assigned to, we drive, we explore that part of the park which has been given to us, and we come back at the assigned time and then go back in for the next ride of the day.
That sounds wonderful. It's very structured.
So a very popular question, when is the best time of year to visit?
So this trip runs, this particular one runs from April, May, June, 3 months. End of June, the park is shut for 3 months. So these 3 months are the hottest time, and very high chances of us having multiple sightings of a tiger, not just to photograph, but also to experience some interesting behavior. So this is one of the best time of the year to visit if you're focusing on tigers.
Pick any from what's up on the catalog. They're really all the best.
Yeah.
So one question here is about the accommodations and whether or not they have air conditioning or ceiling fans.
Yes, this particular trip, you will all be very happy to know that while the conditions outside are harsh and rewarding, but the accommodations are extremely, it's more than comfortable. They're luxurious, they're elegant, they are with staff that are very good at their service and looking after all of you. So very well air conditioned, and not just the rooms, even the dining and all the indoor places within the accommodation.
So someone here, it looks like they may be booked on the Agra extension, and so they're just wondering, how is arrival handled? How does the start of that extension begin? Will they be met by an expedition leader?
So on the way from the park, Ranthambore, to Delhi, we have a station called Bharatpur. At that place, we have the porter, the driver, and the local guide or the representative will be waiting. And the expedition leader who is traveling with the group from the park back to Delhi will get down with the guest, hand over everything, introduce, and the expedition leader will continue. And the guests who are booked on the extension will travel with the team, local team, to Agra. So it's all taken care. There will be properly introduction happening to your guide from Agra. And they will go to Agra, do the sightseeing, and the next day after all the sightseeing, they'll be dropped back to Delhi.
The guides there are the ones who specialize in the history of the Taj Mahal and that region. So it's actually a fantastic experience to go out with them.
Wonderful. All right, a few questions about the trip still. So first one is about bathroom breaks. How often do we get bathroom breaks while we're out in the safari trucks?
So while on safari, we have only very few designated spots where in any national park in India, not just any tiger reserve in India, not just this one, where we are allowed to get off the vehicle and use either the bush, or there may be some very modest, simple facilities for using the bathroom. We always tell our guests right at the beginning of the safaris that if and when you want to use the washroom, just let us know so that we can just plan, because we know where they are, and we can just plan our drive such a way that we get there sooner than later.
Great. And what about snakes and cubs? What are the likelihood of seeing either of these?
So snakes, not so common at this time of the year because it's too hot. People may see them like some harmless water snake near the watering holes. Otherwise, any other snakes are extremely rare this time of the year when you do the trip, because it's so hot. Cubs, it's a chance because tigers can breed any time of the year. They don't have any particular breeding season, and they have gestation of just 3 months, and the cubs are born. So it depending on which particular tigress is having cubs, it just depends when you come and if they are. So there is no particular season for cubs.
Wow.
And but some of the tigress are very bold, and when the cubs are ready to walk, and if they don't feel threatened by any other male tiger who's not just the father, if he's not there, then we do see them bring the mother bringing them out once they're able to walk, or they're moving from one denning area to the other. These individual tigers whom we go see, who are bold, they bring the cubs out if they are there. So we see them.
Also, these cubs stay with their mothers for almost 2 years. So you may get a chance. If there are cubs, they could be of any age. It just depends on when you choose to come and visit us.
Okay, we're getting really close to the top of the hour here, so I'm going to ask just one more question. Someone here was wondering, and this may be very challenging for you to answer, which trip is better for seeing tigers?
Of these three that we mentioned today?
Yes. Yes.
All are equally good.
Yeah, all the summer trips are same destination. So yeah.
All right, great. Well, I'm going to call it there with the questions. Again, for those watching, if you want that recipe that was mentioned earlier, you can download the PDF in your handout section in the control panel. And if you're interested in learning more about any of the trips mentioned today, you can visit our website. You can find our contact information there, see the trip pages, or give us a call or send us an email. All right, everyone, I'm going to hand it back over to all of you for closing comments. Let's start with Harsha and Payal.
Well, what can I say? Thank you, everyone. It's been a long time since we've gone on these trips, and just to take you out on a virtual journey with us was just such a pleasure. So thank you for joining us on the virtual journey, and we hope surely to see you soon on a real one. And thank you, Annie and Kendall, as always, for working with us and doing these amazing webinars. It wouldn't be possible without you.
Yeah.
Well, I really, really appreciate you guys. I know, is it like 1 in the morning now where you are, or midnight?
1:30.
Oh my goodness. So you guys need to go to sleep. Thank you so much for joining us. I have so much fun learning from you. You're just incredible educators, and it's a joy to learn about this place and these animals. And thank you to all of you who signed on. We wouldn't get to have these incredible conversations if you weren't here with us. So I just love that this many people want to come and learn about these places, and hopefully get to travel to them someday. But if not, doing this virtually. And Kendall, thank you for all your hard work. I know that it takes a lot to put this together, so we really appreciate it. And for my webinars, we will see you next week. And I'm sure we've got another one tomorrow as well. So enjoy, you guys, and great thing to do while it's really hot here in the States. Enjoy watching webinars. Thanks, Kaya. You're the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie.
Thanks again, everyone. And my thanks as well to everyone who tuned in today. Do join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we'll have the replay available on our website soon. And with that, I'll conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.